Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling something that I think every single one of us wrestles with, probably on a daily basis. You know that moment when the power goes out?
Mm.
That split second of just sudden, absolute silence before your brain even registers what happened?
It's jarring. It almost feels heavy.
Exactly. It's almost aggressive. We spend our lives surrounded by the hum of the fridge, notification pings, traffic, just the background noise of existing. We're constantly trying to filter it all out to find a clear signal, to focus. But the deep dive we're on today asks a different question, a potentially uncomfortable one.
It asks, what if the noise isn't getting in the way of the message? What if the noise is the message?
That is the central hook of the source material we're covering. We're looking at a collection by the writing duo Max and Claude, specifically two interconnected novels.
The Aperture of Unknowing and the Residue.
Now, I've seen this described as media mysticism, which I have to say sounds a bit heavy.
It sounds dense, but it's actually, incredibly practical. Think of these as a manual for the modern attention economy, but told through speculative fiction. The first story is about a monk who tries to find God by staring at an unplugged television.
Okay.
And the second is about the leftovers of reality, the things we sort of mentally delete to make sense of the world.
So we have an unplugged TV and the psychic trash bin of the universe.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But they unlock each other. You really can't understand one without the other.
Let's start with that first one then. The Aperture of Unknowing. We're introduced to Brother Aldric. And it's important to know right away, Aldric wasn't always a monk.
Right, that's key. He had a very different life before all this.
What was he doing?
In his past life, Aldric worked in high-level advertising research. He was the guy studying eye tracking data, figuring out exactly how to hijack your attention. And he came to this really frightening conclusion.
Which was?
That ads aren't just passive images, they're active. He realized that when you watch a screen, the screen is also watching you. It's dictating your desire.
That is a terrifying thought, that we're the product being processed by the screen. I mean, we joke about the algorithm knowing us, but he took that literally.
He did. He saw the screen as this predatory eye. So naturally, he runs in the complete opposite direction. He joins a monastery to escape the noise. He wants pure silence. But then, flash forward to 1987, the monastery gets a donation.
A television set.
A big, boxy, standard CRT television.
Yeah.
And because it's a monastery, they don't plug it in. It just sits in the common room, this dead object.
And the other monks just ignore it.
Yeah, it's just furniture to dust around. But Aldric, he becomes obsessed.
What does he do?
He starts sitting in front of it for hours, just staring at the gray, blank glass.
Staring at nothing.
He calls it watching the nothing that watches.
Watching the nothing that watches. Wow. That gives me chills.
And this is where that media mysticism thing kicks in. Aldric argues that the off switch is a lie. He believes the medium itself, the television, is structurally present whether there's power or not. It's a frame waiting to capture the world.
So when he looks at the blank screen, what does he see?
His own reflection. But it's distorted, smudged. It's not a clear mirror.
It's a dark mirror.
Exactly. He realizes that without the signal, without a show to tell him how to feel, or a commercial to tell him what to buy, he has to confront the raw, unedited version of himself. And he finds it terrifying.
But here's the wild part. The other monks don't think he's crazy. This obsession actually propels him to the top job.
It's a fascinating scene. When the old abbot dies, they hold a test. They ask one question.
What's the question?
What is the message of the medium that has no message?
That sounds like a Zen con. Like, what is the sound of one hand clapping?
It is. And most monks try to answer with theology. But Aldric, he answers with media theory. He says, the absence of a message is the message. He argues that silence isn't empty. It's a broadcast frequency that we're desperate to avoid tuning into.
Because if we tune into it, we have to hear ourselves think.
Precisely. So they make him at it. And immediately, Aldric implements what he calls the reforms of subtraction.
This is the part of the book that felt so relevant to anyone trying to do a digital detox or, just feeling overwhelmed by their calendar. He strips everything down.
He goes radical. He reduces the ceremonial bells from 17 a day down to just 3.
17.
Yeah. Then he abolishes the daily schedule. No set meal times, no set prayer times. You eat when you're hungry. You pray when you feel moved to.
That sounds liberating on paper. No alarms, no meetings. But in the story, it causes a total breakdown.
It's chaos. The monks start having panic attacks. They get depressed. Some of them leave.
Why?
Because Aldric took away their scaffolding. He realized they weren't praying because they loved God. They were praying because the bell rang. They had outsourced their spiritual lives to a timetable.
They were on autopilot, and without the autopilot, they crash.
Right. Aldrich wanted to force them to confront the void. If you take away the external structure, what's left inside?
For most of them, just anxiety.
Yep. And this whole experiment, it starts to attract attention from the outside world, which brings in Marcus.
The tech billionaire from California, very Steve Jobs-esque, thinks he's found the ultimate retreat.
Marcus is the perfect foil for Aldrich. Marcus thinks technology is the enemy. Ban phones, ban screens, problem solved.
But Aldrich corrects him with probably the most savage line in the entire book.
I know which one you mean.
He says, your phone isn't the enemy, it's a new stomach for an old emptiness.
A new stomach for an old emptiness. That's the core insight of this whole book. We don't scroll because the algorithm forces us to. We scroll because there's a hunger inside us, a void, and the phone is just the latest, most efficient way to feed it something, anything, so we don't have to feel that hunger.
It really changes the blame, doesn't it? It stops being about evil tech corporations and starts being about our own inability to just sit with ourselves.
Correct. And Marcus, being a true Silicon Valley guy, he completely misses the spiritual point and just sees a business opportunity.
Of course he does.
He leaves the monastery and launches an app called Aperture, and it does nothing. You open it, it's a black screen. If you touch it, it closes.
60 seconds of a black screen.
And in the book, it gets 17 million downloads.
Hmm.
It becomes this status symbol, like, I can afford to do nothing.
But the book is critiquing that. We're so desperate for permission to stop that we'll only do it if it's packaged as a product.
We need an app to tell us to sit in a room.
So the story jumps forward 30 years to a doctoral student named Maya, and she coins a term that I think defines our generation.
The terror of the unmediated.
Yes, the terror of the unmediated.
This is the key takeaway right here. Maya argues we're terrified of having nothing between us and the raw static of existence. We need filters.
Schedules, religions, political identities, endless content feeds.
Because if you strip all that away...
You're back to the unplugged TV, that dark reflection.
Exactly. Maya suggests that deep down, we suspect there isn't a solid self at the center. There's just static.
And the book ends by proving her right. They finally plugged the TV in.
Decades later, yeah. The monastery is closing. A young novice asks, what if we turn it on? Aldrich is an old man now, he agrees. But remember, it's not connected to anything. No cable, no antenna.
So it's just snow, white noise.
Hissing, chaotic, static, and Aldrich just starts laughing. He realizes the off-screen and the on-screen are showing the same thing. One is black, one is white, but both are the void. He says, the signal is you. The static is just the raw material of the universe before we force it to make sense.
Wow, that's a heavy ending. It leaves us with this idea that we're the projectors.
Yeah.
We create reality out of the noise.
Which is the perfect pivot to the second book, The Residue.
Yeah.
Because if Aperture is about the person staring at the screen.
The residue is about the noise itself.
Exactly.
Okay, this was a shift for me. Aperture feels very psychological, almost realistic. The residue gets metaphysical. It introduces this concept of the remainder. Can you break that down for us?
Think of it like long division. In math, you divide an uneven number, you get a whole number, and then you have a remainder. Something that didn't fit.
Okay, I'm with you.
Well, in this novel, that logic applies to reality. Every time you make a choice, marry person A instead of B, become a lawyer instead of a musician, you create a unity. You solidify a reality. But the option you didn't choose doesn't just vanish. It becomes a remainder.
So the world is full of these ghosts of what could have been.
It's worse than that. In the book, these remainders are sentient. They're conscious beings that live in the interstices, the cracks between our reality.
And our main character is one of them. He doesn't have a name. He is just a remainder.
He calls himself the invoice or the cost of coherence. He exists because someone else made a choice to be whole, and he was the part that got cut away. And he is furious about it. He's lonely, he's cold, and he watches the merged, that's us, with total envy.
But he finds a community, other cast-offs, a scholar, a poet, a skeptic.
That's a great way to put it. They're all the doubts and nuances that people ignored to make up their minds, the nuance that got flattened out.
And they develop this philosophy of exclusion. They realize the real world is a lie. It claims to be complete, but it's built on a mountain of discarded parts.
So they decide to do something about it, to disrupt the signal. They start entering people's dreams.
They call it testimony.
Right. They don't want to hurt us. They just want to be seen. They enter our dreams to remind us that we aren't as complete as we think we are. You know that feeling when you wake up with a vague sense of loss or nostalgia for a place you've never been?
Yeah.
In the book's logic, that's a remainder brushing up against your mind.
It gives a voice to that what if feeling we all have. But the emotional anchor of this story is when our remainder meets a human girl named Iris.
A lucid dreamer. Yes, Iris is unique. When he enters her dream, she doesn't just feel him as a spooky presence. She looks him right in the eye.
And she asks him a question that just completely disarms him.
Are you lonely? It just cuts right through all his existential rage. He spent eternity thinking of himself as cosmic waste, as trash. And he admits he is. He tells her he's just the stuff that wasn't good enough to be real.
But Iris, she flips the script on him. And this is the insight that ties back to the first book.
What does she say?
She tells him, "You're not garbage, you're the foundation."
It's a beautiful reframing. She explains that a house stands on dirt. The dirt isn't the house, but the house can't exist without it. She calls him the museum of what could have been. She helps him see that the remainder isn't a mistake. It's the support structure for everything that exists.
Light needs shadow to be seen. The signal needs the static to be heard.
Exactly. And that moment, it changes him from a victim into a witness. He realizes his job isn't to force his way back into reality, but to hold the space for everything that reality excludes.
This leads to the synthesis of the two novels. This is why they're published together. The Aperture of Unknowing tells us to unplug and look at the static, because that's where truth is.
And the Residue tells us what the static is. The static isn't just empty noise. It's alive. It's composed of all the parts of ourselves we've tried to ignore or repress or filter out.
So when Brother Aldric was staring at that dark TV screen, terrified of the nothingness,
He wasn't looking at nothing. He was looking at his own remainders. The ad executive he used to be, the desires he suppressed, the doubts he hid behind his faith.
we fear the silence because the silence is full of our own ghosts.
But the books argue that we need those ghosts to be whole.
So the story of the Residue, it spans a whole lifetime. Iris grows up, she gets old, the remainder stays the same outside of time.
And as Iris is dying, she offers one last piece of wisdom. She suggests that death is just the ultimate merger, and that process will create new remainders. It's a constant cycle.
And she gives him a mission to find her great-great-granddaughter, Elena.
Who also has the sight.
Yeah.
It suggests this legacy of connection. And the remainder realizes his goal isn't to fix the fracture in reality. His goal is to be, as the text puts it, the fracture that heals differently.
I love that phrase, the fracture that heals differently.
It implies we shouldn't try to be these perfectly smooth, unbroken people. The cracks, the static, the weird doubts, that's where the depth comes from. By the end, he accepts his role. He decides to simply remain, to witness.
So bringing this all down from the metaphysical clouds to the listener's actual life, we started this deep dive talking about noise and this desire for clarity.
And I think the takeaway here is that clarity is kind of a trap. We are obsessed with optimization. The perfect morning routine, the perfect diet, the perfectly curated feed.
We want a clear signal.
But Aldric would say that clear signal is just a construct. It's artificial. And the remainder would say that by optimizing everything, you're creating a massive pile of waste parts of yourself you're just throwing away.
You become brittle.
You become brittle. You become unable to sit in a quiet room for 60 seconds without reaching for a nap.
So what's the actionable advice? I mean, I'm not going to go unplug my TV for 30 years.
You don't have to. But you can try what Maya suggested to her students. Watch the static.
And practically, what does that look like?
It means resisting the urge to fill every single gap. The next time you're in an elevator or waiting in line or just driving your car, don't pull out your phone. Don't turn on the radio.
Just exist in the gap.
Just for a moment.
That is incredibly uncomfortable.
It is. You'll feel bored.
Yeah.
Then you'll feel anxious. You'll remember some embarrassing thing you said 5 years ago.
That's the static.
That's the remainder bubbling up. And instead of pushing it down, you should maybe greet it. Be hospitable to your own ghosts.
Acknowledge that the anxiety or the boredom is a valid part of you.
It's the foundation. If you can sit with it, even for a minute, you stop being so afraid of it. You realize the static isn't haunting you. It's just waiting to be acknowledged.
It's about integration, merging the signal and the noise.
That's the path to actual peace, not filtering the noise out, but understanding that the noise is you too.
I want to leave everyone with one final image from the source material. It's from the epilogue of The Aperture of Unknowing.
The museum scene.
Right. Years after the monastery dissolves, that same television set ends up in a museum of media history. It's in a dimly lit gallery.
And it's plugged in.
It's turned on, broadcasting pure, white static 24/7. People walk by it and, they think it's broken.
But for you, the listener, the question is it broken? Is it showing nothing?
Or is it showing everything that hasn't been sorted into a signal yet? Something to think about the next time your screen goes black. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.